And welcome to Flory Models Kit Review time. Today we've actually got Revell's brand new U-Wing fighter. Now obviously this is from the Rogue One film, haven't seen it yet, but this does look to be something very interesting. It's a troop transport, as we can see, looking around on the box. Now the thing with this, it doesn't actually give a scale, so I'm not sure what this is in the great scheme of things, but you can see running around, we've got the usual blurb. Okay, there we go, 6+, this is lights and sound. If it's anything like their other stuff they've been doing, it'll be horrendous. 28 centimeters long, so actually, I know it's all wings, but it is a nice size, but the wings should move and open up, okay? Because you can see it has got movable wing parts, and there's our part count down there. As you can see, it's nothing too much. All right, so as I say, I haven't been in here, or looked in here, or anything else like that, so it'll be interesting to see exactly what we've got. So, there, we've got wings, we've got a few instructions, and we've got a pack of bits. Okay, so looking at the parts, so we've got the fuselage parts. To be honest, we've got recessed panel lines on this guy, nothing exactly brilliant. It looks quite soft plastic as well, but don't forget this is their click and play, so you are going to need it to be a little bit more sort of flexible perhaps than some of their other bits. Okay, so we have got some parts, so we're just going to pop these out right now. We have got some nice clear parts down here as well. Okay, and we've got a bag of bits. Looks like we've got the base of the bottom turret. We've got some intakes, obviously taken from the X-Wing family of engines. Pop those out. Okay, we have got a sound unit and lights. Okay. To be honest, I'm not sure if that sound is good or bad, having not known what the real thing quite sounds like. Okay. And then in the little bag, we have got some little parts down here. So we've got some engines, okay, and we've got the nozzles, we've got the engines themselves, we've got some laser cannons, various parts as you can see running around down here. And we've got the all-important instructions. So I think that's the safety brief about the actual batteries and the usual things. So down in here, we've got the usual part call out, which is pretty straightforward for down here. I'm just going to move that second camera out just a little bit. There we go. Okay, as you can see. And then quite straightforward, we've got the cockpit area all going together. Obviously it's movable, so we can see those moving around. The clear parts being installed down onto there, and obviously the engines going together and being installed. Same on the other side, all the engines being fitted. We've got a couple of little landing pads, so if you wanted them down, removing the battery and then sweeping the wings. Okay, so to be honest, it doesn't look too bad. Looking at the parts, I think, like we've said with all of their stuff, it's a good start. Okay, so we've built, as you can see just down the side here, this is the Revell Star Destroyer. Go off and have a look at that video build. It's up on YouTube now. Okay, and we loved it. This plastic doesn't seem to be quite as nice as that plastic. This seems to be a slight step away from it, maybe due to the scale and things like that, but the panel lines are very heavy on this one for the scale, and quite frankly the detail is very lacking on it, whereas the Star Destroyer for its scale I think is pretty nice right the way through. So anyway, let's pop this thing together and see exactly what we've got, and we can have a detailed look at all the parts as we make our way round. Okay, so in part one, as we can see just down in here, it's talking about the cockpit area. So we've got this guy up here, which is far enough. Okay, so we have these. Okay, then we've got parts 1 and 2, which we assume these guys down here. Now I'm thinking these are the load bays, the ramps, and we're thinking they're a click-in fit. Okay, so they are a sort of click fit down into these, and they have a little tooth, so they only sort of go one way, so you can have them sort of open or closed, okay, if you wanted to, but obviously this puts them in the closed position. But these are the doors for the troop carrier doors that actually come out. This is the one, and then this pops up underneath. So putting the bottom up first, I think that's what it's trying to tell you there, and then that pushes in. Okay, so that's those in just like that. I've got you now, we're back on thing. Clear glass is going to fit in and then just put in just down here. Okay, So at a later date you could easily come back with this and then obviously put it all together. So now it's talking about the seats. So the seats are, where's the seats? Brackets, grays, okay, seats, 2 seats. Have we not got seats? There we go, there's the seats. Crew of 2. These are just going to be a straightforward push fit into here. Again, I think we'll come back at a slightly later date and we'll paint these guys up and all the rest of it. Okay, so that's those done. Okay, and then next up, as you can see just down in here, the soundbar system, and this is all going to fit together. It is tapered, you've got a little T shape, it goes into T shape. Okay, and that's just going to push in there literally just like that. Okay, then we've got the actual cockpit surround, which again you could come back at a later date and detail and paint that up, which I think would be quite a nice touch to do that one. Okay, then one would assume that this is then going to fit into here. Is it a crew of 2? Okay, so with that part down there, and it is the battery pack up, that's just going to go in and sit in and pushes down, so the battery goes flush to the bottom, so the sound comes out through the bottom. Cockpit crew at the top, so obviously you've got glass at the front on the underside, that's what's been tricking me somewhat. Then we've got the twin laser guns going to be going in at the front, so that's going to fit one each side just on the front like that. Okay, and then we are to the wings. So with these sides up, we're just going to come in and we're going to place, we're going to go in the closed position, just facing forward, blue sides up. So this is blue 5. It's going to sit on there just like that. Alright, then we come over to this part, we're going to install the clear. It's just going to come down underneath and push in literally just like that. Pretty straightforward. And then the entire thing is just going to clamp together. So getting all of these to line up with all of these down at the bottom. So we're just going to place over and close up. Get all of that pressed in. There we go, that's one's in there literally just like that. It's looking very much the part. Little green lights in there. And then obviously this is fully posable if you want it in the swept position. That's quite nice. Or the folded up, so happy with that. Okay, next up is the engines. So it's calling out for these engines. We've got the nozzles, we've got little T-shapes. How are these going to fit in? So you see the little nick out of there, you've got the little T in there, and then that allows that to go in and push in. And then you've got the same on the other side, a little nick and the groove. So that's just going to fit in like that. Okay, and then one assumes you've just got this guy. They're only going to be keyed one way, I do believe. So that's how this is going to work. Okay, so this one must be this one then. Nope. So one of these is it. Nope. A, B. Okay. So it can't be that one, can't be that one. That's an open type, that's an open type. Okay, that's going to be the one for that one. That is going to be the one for that one. So one of these is the one for this one. Can't be that one. Can't be that one. Not a central one. Okay. A little bit difficult to work out how this is. So this is A. So A's are going to go diagonal to each other. So A is going to go right across. That's crazy to work out. Hold on. So if we just pop these all in, we'll work by process of elimination. Which is with which. So it can't be that one, can't be that one, can't be that one. So there we go, that's that one. Can't be that one, can't be that one, it must be that one. There we go. Just working out which is which. There we go. Last one left. That's not keyed. Okay, in there. In there. Those are on. So then you just take these over, and A goes with the top, and it's got an A written in there, literally just on there like this. Okay, so then A, as we know, goes on these ones. So then B must go on this one. That's it. And then B, I'm assuming, is that one. And A, because A goes to B. There we go. Very good. Okay. Then just over on the last page, that's those all going in. We've got the landing feet, and the landing feet sort of fit backwards for the rear. Okay, admittedly that might drive you mad after a little while. Okay, struts to the rear. Struts to the rear. Pads to the rear. And there we go. That is it done. Very quick, very simple. I love the idea that Revell are doing with these. They call them literally just sort of click and play and all the rest of it. This is great. It's a good way of getting the kids to put these together and everything else. And actually what you've got is something you can physically play with, because this guy opens up like a giant sort of swan for normal flight. And then obviously when it's in nice and close, and everything else like that for landing, it can just come in, drop them down, everything down like this way, and then the troops all debark out the bottom. Basically this is a Black Hawk, okay, and does it like that. So absolutely lovely. Okay, the plastic on this one is a little bit flimsy, but we have to remember this is a children's toy and not a model kit. If it's a model kit, obviously you'd want these to be a lot stronger and firmer, but the idea of poking little Johnny's eye out on Christmas Day is not really an option, so that's why they are like this and quite flimsy and all the rest of it. But generally, again, I think the level of detail is okay. I don't think it's as good as some of the other ones that we've seen from them, but definitely I think it is okay for what we're thinking about doing with it. So what we're going to do, as we've done with all the others, we're going to take this apart again and we're going to repaint it next. Okay, so we've got the U-wing, we've taken it apart, to be honest, and what we've got is the component parts that we're going to then go through the process of basically cleaning up, painting, putting in the actual colour markings again, and then we're obviously going to weather it. Okay, so we've got the engines down, we'll spray those all, redo them. These should be slightly wider anyway on the blue and things like that. And underside here, as you can see, it is just that generic plastic colour, so we really want to deal with something like that. So down here, to be honest, I've got a couple of bottles already made up of what I call my sort of Star Wars white mix, okay, which is pretty simple. It's XF2 flat white, okay, around about 80%, all right, and then round about sort of, about 90% flat white, and then it's about 7% grey, light grey, so XF19, something else like that goes into it, and then a little bit of buff, okay, and just literally a couple of drops of buff, probably just 1 or 2%, and then that way you sort of get an off-white, creamy type of colour, okay. So we can just find the right one, okay, which then gives you this type of colour. So it's a whitish colour and probably looks very white on camera, but actually it's like an off-white grey. If you just put it with white, you would certainly know the difference. So down in here, usual thing, we've got the 0.2 needle set. So we're just going to make up ourselves a little 50-50 mix of paint and thinners, okay. Just grabbing a soft brush just to give this a nice go. Now the reason for using not pure white is obviously in the Star Wars world, nothing's black, nothing's white. Okay, everything is sort of shades and hues of, as you know. So that's what I like to do. All right, so we're just going to hit the extractor. Check our flow. Looking good. All right, and then what we're going to do, we'll start with these. Dusty coat just to get it going. Okay, and then as soon as we got a little bit of paint going down on there and it's gripping, then what we can actually do is then go in with a heavier coat. So this is like a primer, all in one, and then As you can see, we're losing that. The blues are going. Doesn't matter if you leave a little bit behind, because to be honest, we could do with it. Okay. And then as it's taking, we can give it a little bit more, a bit heavier paint. There we go, just like that. Alright, and then to be honest, I think I'll use a brush and I'll literally just put it through the hole. Okay, and it can just sort of hang like this. Alright, so let's hang that over here. Okay. Same on the other one. Okay. Okay, both of those done. Alright, then we've actually got the cockpit area down here as well. We've got a little bit of a ball building up just down on the nib, so we'll just give that a little white. Okay, and then we've got the ship itself, so again, okay, just right over. So down here on the internals as well, we're just going to do the white. So it's going to have a little wash just to liven it all up. Just give it a bit more solid. And then just down on the racks. Just not forgetting to do the edges. And the sides. One, and then here, and what we'll do afterwards, we'll mask the sides to do the grey, okay, because we've got a little bit of grey white is gonna show through. A little bit of spit in. It's quite a thin paint, and we are just chucking it down quite heavily, so it is spitting just a little bit. And then what we can do, we can probably hold it in here. Down there, which are these little white bits just each side, just like that, pretty straightforward. Then the engines, then what we'll do, we'll go around and we'll mask these up afterwards. We're not going to be going in and filling and all the bits and pieces. This is just a quick paint job to improve on what we've got. So we'll be doing a lot of hand painting just to put these together. Okay, and that's one colour cup gun, okay? So we've got to do the other three engines, we'll get those painted up and everything else like that. Let that dry, we'll do the grey work, paint those off, mask them up and all the bits and pieces. Same goes down the back here, okay, but we'll show you that in a moment. So what we're going to do, finish painting off these engines, get those done, and actually what we can do is think about moving on with the various painting areas. And then down here on the actual fuselage bottom half, as you can see as we run it down here, and to be honest, we've resprayed the entire lower section and the bait itself on the top. We've just done it in neutral grey, which is obviously XF53, okay, right the way over it, and then we're going to hand paint the details. We've done exactly the same with the wings, so we've got rid of those, we've tidied those up like that, Okay, and the last bit is obviously the engine. So the pods themselves, the actual engines, they've been done, taken care of, and they've just been sprayed in our Star Wars white. So pretty straightforward. And now we just got to do the back end. So what we've done, we've masked off the front, all the rest of it, just like that. Then what we're going to be using is a buffable. Okay, so we're going to be using dark iron. So we just got a bit down there like that. We're just going to grab our colour cup and insert it, and what we're going to do is spray this on. So you could brush this on, you could use basically any sort of metal colour you like, but the way I'm looking at it is we can put some very nice details in there. So we're just going to draw up a bit in here, and we spray this neat, okay, and we build it up just like that. Okay, so we just move those, hit the extractor, blow it through, quite a high air pressure. Okay, and then all we're going to do is just blow in the engine areas, nice thick coat, because we'll actually paint this up. Okay, so you get that sort of dusty type look with it. And then what we'll do, we'll be buffing and blending with our finger and everything else like that on there to buff that up to make it look really, really nice. Okay, so that's one done. Okay, we're just going to come in the back here. And then obviously you could come in if you wanted to with a slightly different colour for that tailpipe, the last part, but I'm probably going to be able to buff it all together. But with this stuff, with the buffable, just make sure you use enough paint. If you don't use enough paint, what can happen is you just end up going through to the plastic. Okay, so that is literally that one done. Okay, if you're looking a little bit white there, we're just going to come in, it's going to pop a little bit more just down in there. So we're just going to repeat, we're going to do all the others like that, and we'll move back over to the actual bench and we'll start putting it together. Okay, so stripped down completely, and we're sort of repainting and going through the motions of doing it all. So what we've done is we've done that Star Wars white colour right the way over. It's generic for everything I do. Okay, and we've done these grey, we've done the engine bits and things like that. Now, obviously, depending on which version you're going to be doing at the moment, I'm doing this. Here we are on what, the 19th of December. I haven't seen Rogue One yet. I know I am literally the last person alive, but hopefully I'll be able to see it tomorrow. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is roughly follow what seems to be the generic sort of blue 5 type colour. Is it 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is blue 5 on this. So what actually happens here, down at the front, this block is going to be blue, okay? And on here we can just still see fading in here some of the original colour, and I deliberately left it like that so I could mask and do everything and replace those. The thing is, obviously we want it to look chipped and worn and battered and everything else like that. Okay, so the white areas on it don't seem to have that sort of chipped everything in. Everything seems to chip down to that generic whiteness. So what we got down here is a little bit of chipping fluid. To be honest, we're just using upturned area on here. We're just going to take a blob, because you won't need much of this. Okay, and we're just going to grab a brush. We just get a clean brush, or a cleanish brush would be nice. Okay, then all we're going to do, just give that a bit of a rub. Down on here, on this area at the front, we're just going to grab a little bit of this stuff, okay, and we're just going to brush this on the entire area, okay. Now we don't really want to go anywhere further, because this is just the one area you want to have chipped. Now it has got a couple of little yellow areas as well. So one being this area down here. So we're just going to go over it again with the chipping fluid. And just keep brushing so it's all nice and level. Okay, and we know these are going to be a little bit chipped on the top. So we're just going to give a little bit of an overpass, just a little bit. Now it doesn't have to be everywhere and precise and everything else like that. Okay, so just looking in the light, make sure you do this until you've got a nice flat layer. If it's beading up on itself, just keep brushing at it and it will go flat eventually. Okay, so that's those two done. And we're just going to come in here. And remember, chipping is all about randomness, so don't worry too much if you've got not enough on or too much or whatever, because this will give you your random look to it. Now it's not going to take long to dry. Okay, so that's those two done. Now it has another couple of little chips just on this blue one on the side here and on here. So again, we're just doing those. Okay, and then reload our brush, and we know it's all blue down the front on this one. So again, we're just going to go over. Now this is going to have washes, it's going to be over coated, it's going to have various bits and pieces all over this. So don't worry too much about being perfection on this and everything else like that, because say we not really striving for perfection, if that makes sense. Okay, so just a little bit on these areas where we're going to have the markings. Okay, now as I said, don't panic too much about getting it on the white paint. It's going to be over coated as well. Okay, so we're going to do various little weathering techniques and bits and pieces right the way over this. It's going to have filters and washes, okay, and everything you can imagine. So this end, it has it just on the end part here. Now this will dry back pretty quickly, doesn't take too long at all. And when you're in there, you'll be fine. I think that one's all okay in there. Okay, so we're just going to do this area just on these, exactly the same. Okay, so that's it. Simple as I said, you don't need gallons of this, that's why you literally take a drop and away you go. Alright, we'll clean that up in a few minutes. Alright, so we can put those off to one side, and those can be drying just like that. At the same time, you might remember we did this engine work at the back. Now this is a good thing you have it masked up, because you don't really want to touch this. Okay, so again, we're just going to take this is my sort of dry brushing brush. You might see it's got a little bit of silver on it. So all we're going to do now is flick at this. And as you can see, or hopefully you see straight away, you get the metal areas begin to pop. Now depending on how much you rub this, will depend literally on how much shows through. Now this first stage is quite light, the back stage is darker, so what we're going to do is just going to keep going at this to lighten this through. And this is one of those things, the more that this gets, the more it sort of polishes and the more nice metal look it's going to have to it. And again, this is a first stage, we can overcoat this and everything as we go. Alright, so this is just stage one of sort of mini. Okay, so once we're in there, then we can start to polish this through. We get a nice sort of metal look. And as I say, we can go over it with heat, but everything should just begin to pop through. Then we're very lightly just going to buff up the end. So we get it. Now this is one of those things, on camera it looks truly awful this, but when you get a couple together it doesn't look so bad. But you can see we've got something like this, and then as I say, you put a dull one next to it, that's the difference you're going to have. Okay, now we can seal this, and because we're going to seal it, it will dull it, which is actually quite a nice thing. But this stuff, the great thing about using the buffable as we did, is that it literally saves you having to do this thing of actually multiple layers. So instead of going in there with like the darkness and then having to go through with silvers, you can literally do it all in one. Okay, and if you use a brush, it will polish and it will give effect, and you can take it from one area, you can go to the other with it, and everything else you want to do. But this will give it a great sense of depth. So just a little bit on that exhaust, just the actual engine nozzle itself, but not as much as obviously everywhere else has had. Now if you wanted to, as we said, you could carry on with this and literally keep rubbing at it and burnishing it almost, and you can make this go like a mirror. As I said, it's just one of those things. What you can do at the same time, I've already done it a little bit here, if you take what you've got on the brush then and you rub it around your metal areas, you can give a nice metal look to everything. Okay, around here on the back. Again, you're catching it in the light, you see how it reflects. So this will have a wash a bit later on, but this is just for the moment. I've just given a sort of dry brushing in reverse. So using everything at your disposal. Okay, as you can see, we can just go in here and we can literally take it. So again, it's wearing off the brush now, so what we're going to do is going to go back and reload. So it's multiple applications. Okay, because what you take off the brush where this is polishing, you'll take elsewhere and use for brushing. And I must admit, I never clean the brush. This brush that I use is my standard one for buffing metallizers, and I never ever use anything else, okay, because I sort of use it for this and then we'll use it elsewhere. Okay, so again, we've got it on here, just take it down here, send him. Just on the back. Like that. Now down here in the front area of the cockpit, we're going to repaint all that by hand, and again we're going to use this brush for making all the silver details and all the switches and anything else pop. But again, 90% of this is literally just down here in this engine area. The rest of it all comes a little bit later. With further washes and bits and pieces like that. So there we go, that's those done. Okay, same time, we're going to paint up this cockpit area. So if you want to, you can flick your crew figures out of this. As we know, they literally will pop out, and then this top area will release. So there we go, we can do it all separate. So if you wanted to, as we're going to do here, we're going to do the floor black. Okay, so we've got some XF85, which is the rubber flat black, which is a great colour for this. Okay, and then we're just going to grab a little bit on a brush here. Okay, we're just going to do the floor. So it's nothing spectacular, it's just a quick job, just to add a little bit of depth. Okay, and again we're just going to take this back. Okay, we're just going to do this side. Okay. Can be drying down, and we're going to do the same with this guy. So we're just going to grab a clamp just to hold it, just to make painting a little bit easier. And again, the whole point of doing these little skills is twofold. One, just to show you how quickly and easily it is just to touch these guys up to make them look something really special with minimal amounts of work. Now this will need to be black everywhere because we can see it from the inside, from the underside. And we are literally just going to paint these recesses in. So it gives the appearance of being a window. Okay, so think of it like tinted glass. Okay, so this has been drying on here now. So actually what we can do is just mask up to do the blue and the yellow. Now if you wanted to hand paint the yellow on, I don't think that'd be a bad idea. It'll give it a nice warm look. But certainly for the blue, we just want to mask off just a little area around it. Okay, just like so. So we'll reuse this tape, that's why we've got so much on the go. And what we're going to do is just pick a blue at random. I think any blue will do. I don't think there's going to be a specific call out for this. And again, I wouldn't worry about specific call outs because it's going to be worn and weathered and all the bits and pieces that go with it. So don't worry too much about what colour blues it should be and all those different things. Now, with the barring for this, what I think of doing is actually making a little template for it, so we can put a template on and then spray each one in turn and all the rest of it. So but it's personal choice if you want to do that, or you could do it this way, and I'll do both. You can just put tape down. Okay. And what we'll do is I think we'll do both. I think actually it might be easier just to mask it. Okay, so what we'll do is just trying to think the best way of doing this. So we just cut an end, so we want a nice square end on our tape. And this is, so we've got a square end up here. So from the end apart as it comes down. Okay, just going to need a little bit just across here. So we're just masking off this. This will be the blue area, obviously. Okay. So just put a bit of tape each side, just stopping the overspray. And on the last one over here, I think what we'll do is we're going to walk it one at a time, and we're just going to take it across, which is something I'll show you in a minute. So we'll just do each end. So each end is then masked off. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to put the tape, that's good enough width, just down like this. We're going to line it up literally on here like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut each one there. Again, it's very rough, but I wouldn't worry too much about this because it is what it is at the end of the day. It's going to be chipped, it's going to be worn, it's going to be weathered. Okay, so we're just going to pop this down on here. We're going to need a nice square edge to start with. Okay, and then the width wise, we're just going to put the tape there, put it there. Okay, and we're going to do each one as per the line. And to be honest, you could probably get away with doing this if you're careful. You could reuse the tape. Okay, so this is just the white, so this is just masking the white side. So that's one. Is how we do it. And what we do, we'll peel this off, transfer it over to the other side, and we can do it just like that. Okay, so no problem at all. So next up we need the blue. So for the blue, I'm just thinking we're going to use a little bit of XF8, I think, unless we've got something. So we just come in. Yeah, I think I want it more worn down actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there with an XF18. Want it to be a darker blue, a more worn blue, and everything else like that. Okay, so we got those, and we're just going to grab our airbrush. Okay. And then we're just going to area here. Okay, so we're just taking out the top bit, so we just pop this in. Now there's a reason for doing this dry, and that is so it dries instantly and it's quite textured. Check our flow, happy with our flow, and all we're going to do, just turn our air pressure down a bit. Okay, this guy, we'll just let those dry, and then what we'll do, we'll peel them off and do the other bits. Okay, and then same thing on here. So we're just going to do these. Done. Okay, just going to blow the edge and the nose, coming this edge, but we don't do the underside. Okay, and literally just like that. So what we're going to do now, let those dry off just for a minute, won't take long, peel off these, put them to the other one and spray it exactly the same on the other side. Okay, so now we are masking up the engines, you can see down below. So this is just a simple job, we're just retracing our strips. There is a small little lip there which helps no end to do this. Now one thing is missing is the brown one. Now I think they're taking their cue from missiles, because down the rear end on a missile where the motor is, like an air-to-air missile, they have a brown stripe to denote that it is a live ordnance, and it looks like they have a brown stripe all the way around on here, so we need to recreate that as well. It doesn't show it on the box art, but if you look at clips from the films and all the rest of it, you will see those on there. So what we got is a little bit of blue. We'll just shift this out of the way. So it's the same blue obviously as we've used all the others, and we can just put this right the way around, literally just like that. That's one. Let's just do this one. And it is that thing with Revell and any type of snap type kit, and you know, the cheaper kits, shall we say, and things like that, they the colours they use are never very good. It's what I love about Bandai's, because their colours are just so spot on that you can sort of almost trust them. But there we go, that's far better than that original blue stripe. You can see the engine, you can see a little bit of overspray going through. I won't take any notice of that because that's going to be all like that. It's going to be weathered in and everything, because we're going to use a pigment rub on this particular one to really denote it. What it is, it's where I'm handling the metal areas and handling the rest of it. Okay, so we just whip that off. We've got a tiny bit of wet paint on me. This is what you get for hurrying it. We'll sand that off in a moment. There we go. That's those on there just like that. So we've done all of those, and then the wing section itself should be dry. So again, we did just like we did the others. We should be able to peel all of this guy off. Okay, and now just peel these away. And we can take off the ends. Pick up my fingers. Okay. Just scrape these away. I'm hoping these will sort of lift with this guy as it goes through, which it does. So that's those done, and then all we can do is just pop a blade under these. And there we have a far better looking tooth system, and there's the other side, and a different, better colour than what we had before. So what we're going to do, we're going to let that dry just for a couple of minutes. Okay, just one thing before we do that, we want to do the pigment rub. So what we actually have is, let's move those colours all out of the way and make ourselves a little bit of room. Because obviously we don't want to get the clear parts ruined or anything else like that, we're going to do a bit of a mixture of dry brushing and everything else. So this is our colour we've used for the engines, and as we know, we can actually reuse this for the other bits. There it is, that's what I'm looking for. So you might remember we did the cockpit, still a little bit wet in places, but this we can then just go round over it with our metal and just overcoat it. And this will just give us a, hopefully, see, it's more of those things you catch it in the light is where you'll see it. As I say, it's still a little bit wet, but it's a nice subtle thing to do. You can go right over it, literally just like that. As I said, it is a little bit wet, but the other thing you can do is if you grab a little bit on your brush, okay, then you paint it on your finger. Okay, and we're trying to brush it as much as we can all over our finger. Okay, now this is dry brushing at its most extreme. Okay, so it's on your finger, so then you rub it, and you notice we've got a metal looking finger now. So then what you can do, you can come along and we can rub the areas all with it. So it will give it all a very metal look and a dirty look, and it will grime. And hopefully you see, it just sort of catches the edges and the things like that. And that way you can rub your entire finger around it, and it will just dirtify and rub in everything over this. Okay, it doesn't show too well on the grey, but you might be able to see it catching it in the light. You get little areas now that are starting to shine through. Okay, so we're just doing down there. We can dry brush it, and obviously it is going to have washes right over the top, and then you can come in and you can do it here. Now I must admit, normally I use my other finger, but what you can actually do now is start to rub it, and this will, as you can start to see, just starting to dirty in and grime in everything on the actual model. Now, as I say, we've got to do chipping effects down on the blues and everything else. This is just to give a sort of metal worn look. The wash is going to do 90% of the work. This is just to give a little bit of metal work, okay, on the edges and all those things. So you start to see what you get in this sort of scuffingness at the top and all those areas literally like that. Okay, so we do that, and then obviously we've got to do down under here because it's the same type of principles. Okay. On the top. So you're taking your own grime, for want of a better thing, and sticking it all over your model, which is great. Okay, so the same on these. Might be able to get a good before and after on these. Okay, so you can see scuffed a little bit, and if we take the other one, which is clean, you can see the difference straight away. And it's subtle, it's what you want. You don't want anything that's too standing out and is in your face, and you know, it just looks like there's weathering coming out. It should be, has to be subtle to make it look like perhaps something's going on. Okay. Right under there. And up in here. Okay. There we go. So what we can actually do now, once we've got that on, we can actually then put this back together. First of all, we need to get this off our fingers. Oh, we've got to do the engines yet, so I'm going to do the engines as well. Exactly the same fashion. We're just going to rub it around absolutely everywhere, just the same as we've done like that. And we also, you can, if you want to, grab the back of the engine just down in here, start to get it on your finger. Then we can rub it over the entire thing itself. And as I say, it's this way of just griming everything nicely up, just making it look a little bit more worn. You know, it has been used, so hey, when you look, you can see we've got the overspray on that one, but that one's a nice clean one. You can see the differences we're getting with it. So again, just a little bit of a rubble in here and over the area. Remember, it's all fun. It's all part of this. It's all about enjoying it. And as I say, we've got washes to come yet and everything else like that. But generally, it's just a good way to weather in and take care of it. Okay, now still got to do the brown band on the back of those, so that's probably why I didn't do this, but never mind, we're there now. Alright, so we're going to do the brown band on there, finish off wearing all of this in, and doing our bit that we want to do just to wear all this down. Okay, so I am covered, but we'll add to the weathering. So we've done the engines, we put the brown rings on there, they are done and finished, quite happy with those. The wash will take care of the rest of it. So actually what we can do now is put it all back together. So like in reverse order, you think with 10 bits I'd know how to do it. Okay, so we've actually got this guy, and then we've got this one. So that goes in underneath and clicks in. Okay, so that is that one in. Then we can put the glass part in, which is that big glass bit. Is that one? What it is. That's it. That's the reason why it won't go in, because we've actually painted and done in aluminium the laser guns, which can now fit in, which go in on top. So that's the clear parts all put in there. No problem with that at all. That's all very good. As I say, anytime you get any dirt, debris, silverness on you, just rub it on the model. Okay, so that is those two in. Then we've got a clear part put in. Then we've got the Back part, again, we've got some metal on a brush, so we'll just give this a light rub just over the floor, just to give it a metal sheen, and around the back. Okay, gives it the effect of weight, which is really nice. Then we can come in with the screw, pop the screw back in, that sits them in there like that. Then we can pop the outer console in, which fits in. Again, I've done it really bright silver purely so it shows up just a little bit better. Okay, then this drops in, so obviously it'll come out the bottom. Okay, so that is all in there literally like that, and then hopefully with all the lights and everything else. The lasers we've put in again. Okay, and then we can actually put the blades in. Okay, so we can go with one. That should fit in there literally just like that. And two. Make sure they push down nice all the way in. That'll take care of those. Okay, so with those pushed in and done, and then we can pop in. So windscreen goes in the top. To be honest, I've done it all silver in there. Again, the reason I've done silver is so the light comes through a little bit more. Okay, and then we can sandwich, well, hopefully, both halves together. Okay, let's fold these up. Good old push fit right the way in. And there we go. That's our far million times better looking U-wing right off the bat. And then we got the engines. I don't remember how it goes now. It's A goes to the back. And then A must be that one under there. And then B will just go in. And it's amazing what a simple, quick paint job can do. Okay, because look at that already. And we haven't really even started on it yet to properly weather it in. Alright, so there we go. That is our repainted, redone U-wing. Why is the front not got it properly? A little bit of a problem there with the front. It's got it quite sandwiched together. Okay, so that's those done literally like that. So what we're going to do now, let that dry for about an hour, just because everything's still wet and oily and everything else all over this one. We're going to come along, we're going to put a wash right the way over the entire thing, let that dry, rub it off, probably give it a flat coat just to knock it all back and everything else like that, if it's required. And that would be our U-wing updated. Okay, so we've put on the feet down in here, as you can see. So we've done those in dark iron, and what we do is we'll buff them up a little bit later when we get into the buffing stage and everything else. But hopefully you can see we are really looking very much the part now. Very, very happy how that's turned out, actually. Okay, next up, a wash. Simple wash right the way over this. You know, it's one of those things. What do you like? Do you like it really bright and bold and in your face? Do you want something a little bit subtle? Really, it's personal choice. The only thing is the panel lines on this are pretty heavy, okay? But you look at the pictures, they look quite dark and sort of worn and dirty and all those different areas. So we are going to bite the bullet and we're going to go straight in here with the black. So we've got a little bit of black wash. And to be honest, because we're doing this quite roughly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be really naughty and I'm just going to stick a bit of a pull down here. Okay, so this is, for those wondering, Flooring Models Black Wash, clay based. You don't have to worry about it, you just put it on and forget about it. Okay, so we're just going to grab in a thing here. I'm just wondering the best way of doing this. Perhaps it might be better to have the wings out a little bit, and then what we can do is we can just put this in. So usual thing, it's going over flat paint, so it's going to grip really, really heavily. Okay, so we're just going to put it right the way over, and then hopefully it's all going to work together. The other thing as well is, for those of you wondering, the chipping fluid we put down, that is going to happen at the same time as we take the wash off. Okay, so usual thing with the wash, make sure you go absolutely everywhere with it. Okay, so we're just going to work our way down the wings. We're going to do the engines, and really we're going to go everywhere apart from the metallic areas. It won't hurt going on the metallic areas, but what will happen is the clay will physically polish the metals that we've put down. Okay, so we're going right over everywhere on this. Okay, it's actually quite a difficult shape to do. Okay, so we're just going to brush this absolutely everywhere. Okay, just making sure you work it into the little nooks and crannies, and if it's easier, just pop the engines off and redo it, you know. Okay, same thing again. I'm just going to open these up. But what will happen is the wash will get caught in that texture, the micro surface texture of the paint, and it will get stuck, which is great because then it gives us the ability to work the dirtiness in the surface of whatever you're doing to give you the desired look or effect that you're actually after. Okay, so it doesn't matter if we're going over white, if we're going over dirty colours or anything, okay, it all will work the same. Okay, so we're doing the white, but also we are going to do all the grey as well. We need a little bit more black wash. Okay, so just down here at the back, and this will just grime it up and it will give everything that nasty type of look. What we do, we'll probably pop the gear legs off just to make it all a little bit easier. Okay, so there we go, that's that together. And to be honest, I think this is going to be a little bit easier to, if we can, pull the engines off. Just from a point of view of being able to get in. Oops, probably not totally destroying them. That's it. I just feel it's going to be... There we go. And maybe if we pull the gear off, it'll just make this easier to physically get in. Perhaps we should have taken that out after all. Okay, let's fold that up, make it more manageable. Okay, so let's just pop these engines back together. That'll be a little bit side up. Okay, I'll just make this all a whole lot easier. There we go. Okay. So you've seen me do this a million times before. It is the clay wash trick. So all you're going to do is rehydrate the clay, or if it's on a particularly shiny surface, you might even be able to rub it straight off. But because it's clay, it has a habit of gripping on. So what you can actually do is come in, and if you give it a rub, you see not much is happening. But if we wet it, we can hydrate the clay and we can rub it all off. Okay, so we can just rub it around like this, and we can leave in as much dirt and grime as we want, because we've gone over pretty much a flat surface. Okay, it's going to get caught in the texture of the paintwork like this, and then what we can do is just lightly get most of the moisture off, lightly buff, and you can buff and blend like you would do with an oil. Think of it like an oil, okay, or an enamel wash. You know, when you can sort of just blend it, you can do exactly the same with this stuff. Okay, and there we go, that's our engine done. So I'll do the others in a minute, and then exactly the same on the wings. So if we just pull a wing out, again, we just wet the cloth, and we can go down. You can see how the chipping is starting to react, and this is purely because obviously we wet the wash to make the wash work, and now it's starting to work its way in. Okay, so we want to leave a little bit in there, so we're just trying to play. That's going to do my head in every time I press that, but as you can see, you can make it as dirty and as grimy as you like. Okay, so it's just a thing of exactly how much you want. Okay, now we are going to come back and chip it properly, but for the minute we're just going to concentrate on getting it off of everywhere. So we're just going to pop in. But as I say, we've got the extreme here. This is pretty much as the most extreme with the wash, because you're using black, which is obviously the strongest, and we're going over a dead flat coat. So that means it's going to grip like hell. Okay. And it's got lots of nooks and crannies and everywhere it can sort of hide and everything else like that. So, usual thing, we're just going to rub around. We want to leave the grime in there. The whole point going in and doing this wasn't to just remove everything, it was to remove quite a bit, but we want to leave bits of it behind. Okay, so noisy bit, but we just need to get in here and get in here with a cotton bud. Let's say down under here we won't see too much because of the engines will be in here, but obviously we can do the bits we can see. Okay, and down in here, there's the engine. You see very quickly you're going to dirty up the towel, so I must admit I usually rip it into quarters just to make it all a bit easier. Okay. There we go. So, again, not sure. This thing flies in outer space with the wings open, but suborbital, I think it has the wings folded forward. So you've got that thing with direction of airflow. Not too sure which direction you want it to go in, so be a bit of personal choice on that one. But again, so there we go. Happy with that, and we can play with that a little bit more. So let's just do the underside of these wings and these edges. I'm going to leave these edges a little bit dirty because we're imagining they would, plus the fact they're not the nicest design. So, but again, we're going to be chipping that shortly anyway. Okay, and then down in here, all around all the glass areas, everything else. But we're assuming perhaps down under here things do get a little bit grubby and dirty, but again it's all personal choice. Polishing up the metal, because the metallizer into the white and all the rest of it will help. It'll make it all look really nice. A bit more off of here, take some of that away. Okay, and then around the back. Okay, so I'm just going to continue getting this off absolutely everywhere, and we'll get it off those engines again, just so you don't have to listen to the sound effects every 30 seconds when I knock it. Either that or I might kill it. And there we go. So we are looking, as you can probably see, a lot more like it now. So we've got nice weather in. It's a mixture of sort of heavy and light and everywhere in between, just like that. So now what we want to do is obviously take care of these clear areas. So what we want is cold water. Never use warm water because it works far too quick. Okay, so we take some cold water. We want a strongest brush. Okay, so we just take the water. Okay, say it's normal tap water, and brush it right the way over that entire area, quite a bit of it. Okay, and then again we're just going to do these fronts, just brushing water right the way over for the moment. Okay, and we let it go in. Now don't worry too much about it evaporating. So again, over the markings. The yellow's already broken off of a couple of areas, so that's cool, that's good. Okay, just on these and on a bit on there and on the other side ones. Okay, now this is starting to go now, so what we're going to do, very lightly, and it is sort of just stabbing motions, you can see we're just going to take off some of the edge, and you can see it's coming through quite heavily, and we're just going to chip around the outside just for the moment. We're just trying to get in there, and if you get a stubborn bit like here, it's not really doing much. If you take a cocktail stick, okay, and just lightly tap a couple of little spots, you can see you'll go straight through, and then you can grow on those. You see how we've just made those two? Okay, so I'm just gambling that the front is going to be very warm, and then a little bit more down in here. Okay, just off this edge. Some random bits, little scuffs just in the middle, and there we go. You see, and exactly the same goes for everywhere else. So let that naturally dry off now. So we're just going to take a little bit more water. can see, old scuff just appearing here on the fronts. And we're guessing the edges would be quite heavily scuffed, so that's where we're just going to focus our attention just for the minute. Okay, just around the front. Again, if you're finding it's not really happening for you, just add more water and patience. Okay, so just going to put a little bit using the blade. Again, we just want to put a little bit few up here. It's not really working, so I'm just going to just put a little bit of scratching in there, and then that will allow the water to penetrate and then to get back in there. Okay. Okay, so there we go, that's that one. And then down here, these markings, just lightly, just to take the corners, the edges off of everything. These. So we don't want to obliterate it, we're just trying to wear them in a little bit. Okay, and once you've done it, because obviously we don't want to really get a tide mark around it, we're just going to very lightly dab and press literally around. Okay, and there we go, that's how we do our little chipping. Okay. This guy up here is a bit easier to get to. We can just literally give him a little rub. You can see, a little rub. Just the same on the other side. So again, we're just re-wetting. It's just the chipping fluid enables you to be able to wear quite quickly. In to the other areas. Okay. Okay. Just in these areas. So your biggest thing will be is how far do you go? Do you go right up? Or where do you learn to stop? Okay. So the chipping fluid just enables it to flow off a lot easier. Okay. So all you do, soften the paint. It's hard shell underneath. That's what the chipping fluid's doing for you. And that way you can just slightly wear in. The chipping just needs to be subtle. Don't want anything too strong. Okay, literally just like that. So there we go. That is it. Now, personal choice. Do you want to overcoat it? Again, that's what we're saying. It's one of those things. Personal choices. If you do want to overcoat it, if you don't, whichever way you want to do it. There's no right or wrong to this. This is sci-fi at the end of the day. Okay, but there we go. That is our U-wing finished.